Hello, Chris Bennett here from Austin, Texas. Today is July 30th. Came out here for a couple weeks and I've been meeting with some friends of Del Bigtree, and Del Bigtree is very close to Robert Kennedy. So, Robert Kennedy's running the healthcare system, and this video is about the Maha documentary, which just came out about a week ago, and all the inaccuracies in it. It's really disgusting. So I'm showing you this picture right here because I've given my ideas to Robert Kennedy. It was a year ago. He was in Los Angeles. I went to his campaign event, and it was Black History Month. It was about, there was a group of African American leaders, and including Martin Luther King's daughter's adopted daughter, and I gave her my information also. And this is not the first time I got my information to Robert Kennedy. It's the second time. James Lyons Weiler, about 6 years ago, I contacted him, and I contacted about 10 other members of Robert Kennedy's team who are his top advisors, and I sent them my information about how to make America healthy again, and they didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I'm going to go through all of the horrific medical information which is in the new Make America Healthy Again documentary, because I only watched episode 15 and 16, and I got 15 pages of lies and inaccuracies. Total garbage. So it's very important that we go through this because we're reaching the finish line here. What's coming up is they're getting boxed in, and they're going to be cornered, and I'm going to be able to get through to them with all the incredible ideas that my dad developed back in the 1970s when he figured out what's really making America sick. So we're going to talk about the contrast of what they're advocating in this documentary and what the real answers are. And this is really going to blow your mind. So it was back in the 1970s. My father was a founding medical director of the Pritikin Longevity Center, and he discovered that most illnesses, the ones that Kennedy and team, along with Del Bigtree, are saying you need all these weird alternative therapies that are total garbage, when in fact my father figured out back in the 1970s that most illnesses can be reversed with radical healthy living, stress reduction, etc. So my father brought in the investor. They bought a hotel in Santa Monica on the beach, and he brought in the doctors from UCLA and the nurses, the best chefs. So it's the longest profitable residential healthy living program in the world, now in a Trump hotel on Miami Beach. And he found back then that high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, losing weight, just radical change, these healthy living could reverse all of them. Then another 20 or 30 years later, Dr. Dean Ornish, using his program, which is very similar, he proved it. My father proved that you could get off the drugs and you could bring those numbers down, high blood pressure, high blood sugar. But Dr. Dean Ornish showed that with intensive healthy living, you could reverse heart disease, hardening of the arteries, etc. But this information is not getting distributed to all the doctors. And now this disgusting, obscene documentary right here really needs to be called out. So that's what this is about. I'm going to go through the errors. Starts off with number one. It's called the Kennedy Maha Report. Now, Make America Healthy Again. And it's a documentary, 15 parts. So Jeff Hayes Del Bigtree was running Make America Healthy Again. Then he got replaced by Jeff Hayes. Del Bigtree I met around 3 years ago here in Austin when he moved into the street I was living on, where me and my dad had a ranch starting about 20 years ago. 16-acre ranch. It's right near where Willie Nelson lives in Spicewood, Texas. So I went over to his house. I dropped off my father's book, which has most of the answers in it, and my most important letter. I stuck it in his mailbox. This letter is going to blow your mind. It's the same letter that I tried to get to Robert Kennedy about 6 years ago through James Lyons Weiler. James, I talked to him on the phone back then, and I sent him all my information. It led to a video of President Biden and Obama and Nancy Pelosi and Senators Rockefeller, John Barrasso, Tom Coburn, Ron Wyden, Chuck Schumer, Patty Murray, Mitch McConnell, Marsha Blackburn, Dick Durbin, Mike Enzi, Chuck Grassley, Nancy Pelosi, Charles Rangel, Henry Waxman, 19 of our top leaders, Javier Becerra, sitting around with Senator Kent Conrad, who said millions of seniors are getting 16 drugs in bad combinations. It's making them sick and bankrupt in Medicare, causing suffering. Well, they didn't even mention that. So I put this letter together. I posted that video on my YouTube channel over 10 years ago. That's the poisoning of America. So James Lyons Weiler got the information, and he sent me back a message saying, I sent it to Robert Kennedy, and he said, if you're a whistleblower, I want to help. Then I never heard from him again. Then a year ago, I got it to Kennedy again. I was at that event, and I waited in line and got a picture with him, gave his staff, his security, my dad's book, and I had this letter stuck in there. I said, please, I've been trying to get this to you for 6 years. Please don't let your staff throw it in the garbage. I don't know what's happening. So then I never heard from him again. So he's been getting it. And it shows, the letter says, oh God, this is so crazy. The letter refers to 10 years ago, Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Andrew Weil, Dr. Oz, all went to the Senate, and they told all of them that we're spending $6 trillion a year on sickness care. If we spend part of that on healthy living programs, then we can eradicate most illnesses. And so that is the answer that they don't want to talk about in their ridiculous documentary in which they're pushing a dozen, maybe 6 to 10 loco therapies that are totally worthless. And I'm going to go through them. It's total junk science. So what I wrote in here is we're spending $6 trillion, it was maybe $5 trillion back then, on sickness care. And if we spend $1 trillion on healthy living solutions, it'll create jobs in every single community. And it'll create jobs for veterans. So they get high-paying jobs. They're not going to be killing themselves 22 a day, are they? It's going to pay for the boot camp cure in every single community. My God, it's a home run. But they didn't want to do it. So in the video is a couple key people. Henry Waxman, he did the Pritikin program multiple times, and it probably extended his life. California Attorney General Javier Becerra, he's in the video. He's gone after multiple of my business partners, people that I was asking for help. For example, Dr. Howard Elkin. You can Google that. He was Suzanne Summers' doctor in Los Angeles, and then my parents, I talked to him on the phone. I got my parents to go there, and I asked him for help with this letter, but he was scared. He said, I can't do that. I got to practice, and I could get in a lot of trouble for helping to stop millions of seniors from getting poisoned. Okay, So he didn't help me, but then a couple years later, you can Google it, Attorney General Javier Becerra went after him and charged him, along with 20 other doctors, with Medicare fraud, and it was total garbage. Never happened. So I had been asking his daughter, who was working for Arnold Schwarzenegger, I begged and pleaded her. I said, please take this letter to him. She didn't want to either. So a lot of fear. But things are lining up now. So Marsha Blackburn, Taylor Swift was right. She's a loco, totally batshit crazy. And this proves it. So poisoning millions of seniors is ridiculous. Technically it's genocide. If you're killing that many millions of people, poisoning them, why don't we just call it what it is? When you're poisoning that many people, you have an agenda. It's not an accident. So Senator Kent Conrad, if you look at my YouTube channel, New Planet Tech, you can see he tried multiple times. It was 4 or 5 years earlier. He was speaking to President Bush's budget director, and he said the exact same thing. Millions of seniors are taking 16 drugs in bad combinations, and it's bankrupting Medicare. What's going on here? It needs to stop. So when you talk about all these crazy-ass therapies, no, you don't need crazy-ass therapies. Just stop poisoning Americans with bad drugs and put all that money into healthy living programs, which can reverse everything. So in the documentary, they didn't hear from Dr. Dean Ornish or Andrew Weil. All they heard from was Robert Kennedy and Dr. Oz, who are running our medical system. Dr. Oz, you should know better, because, as I said, Dr. Oz testified to the Senate, and with Dean Ornish and Andrew Weil, and let's see, February 2009, Senators Tom Harkin was there, Senator Enzi, Tom Coburn, Patty Murray, and Lamar Alexander. So they testified with Mark Hyman, another person in this video. So these people, okay, it needs to be looked at. Let's see. So let me go through the garbage here. First garbage number 1. So Jeff Hayes, in the very end of the video, he says, I'm here one last time. When Bobby gave me his official blessing to make this movie under the Maha brand, Make America Healthy Again. If you have enjoyed this free broadcast of Maha Uncensored, oh no, it's not free. They played it for 24 hours and then they cut you off and they say you got to pay $80 in order to watch the rest of it. That is so unethical. If you have answers that can make the world healthy, you make it freely available. Uncensored. No, they censored it because it costs money to watch it. Total garbage. Ridiculous. So can you imagine the guy running the medical system, Kennedy, is arranged for this documentary and then charge people to watch it to get the answers. That's crazy. Ridiculous. So that's how you can tell it's baloney. They give this teaser. They let you watch it for a little while, then they say you got to pay to play. Please purchase. Huge discount if you act today. The price is well worth it. No, it ain't. So let's go through the baloney here. Let's see. It starts out with the truth about Medicare. 80 to 90% of our patients are facing metabolic syndrome. 100% reversible with healthy living and radical stress reduction. What they're recommending, though, is IV therapy, which completely cleans the blood in your veins. They show JFK and Dr. Mark Hyman. The title is Lyme, Ozone, and a New Theory of Disease. Nearly 6 in 10 Americans have chronic disease. First of all, it's not a disease. If you're overloading with stress, and you're getting ill. It's not a disease. So that's one way that they obscure. They call it a disease. It's not a disease. They claim hundreds of thousands of lives each year. In 2023, 700,000 heart disease deaths. 700,000, that's almost 1 million. So again, intensive healthy living. Again, Dr. Andrew Weil, Dr. Dean Ornish, they both know that it's reversible with healthy living. That's why they were not featured in this documentary. They are not standing by Dr. Oz and their colleague and Mark Hyman. Okay, then you have Dr. Ron Hunninghake, the Reardon Clinic. There's a room full of patients, and they all have IVs, and they're getting these drip vitamins, this orange liquid injected into their veins. And where do you think that comes from? China. China. You really want some crazy ass orange liquid from China, which is vitamins? It's just a bunch of chemicals. Jason West, physician, patients with IVs. All right, page 1. Function better so it doesn't get sick or broken. Reardon Clinic, nutrient deficiencies, high dose vitamin toxicities, B niacin for schizophrenia. No. As a matter of fact, schizophrenia is caused by post-traumatic stress. One of the big mysteries. So the Vietnam veterans were coming back and they were getting diagnosed with schizophrenia. That's why Shad Mishad, Bessel van der Kolk, and Dr. Charles Figley advocated, along with Senator, blocking on his name, Jane Fonda helped a little bit, or a lot, and they said enough is enough. You can get all the same symptoms for the mental illnesses that the veterans are getting, and it's not schizophrenia. B6 for chronic depression and anxiety, vitamins. Sorry, bad news stress turns off happy chemicals in the brain, and that's what's causing people to get depression. So, excuse me, it's still going right? Okay. Chapter 15. Page 3. Thomas Levy, cardiologist, attorney. So he talks about, he went in and he was going into his dentist, and he saw somebody on the dental chair getting 50 grams of vitamin C infusion. And he saw this lady just jump up, and she was all full of energy. It says, all diseases are oxidation of biomolecules. All oxidized biomolecules are oxidized by toxins. The antioxidant in your body. So they're simplifying everything into a bunch of baloney. Large infusions of vitamins would knock out infections. Large doses will stop cancer cells. Baloney. Then we're going to use dilute hydrochloric acid, which helps clean out the lymph nodes. What I know is true is if we had complete honesty in medicine, conservatively, use of vitamin C could eliminate 70% of pharmaceuticals. No, healthy living, radical stress reduction can eliminate 70% of pharmaceuticals. Okay. Purpose of the immune system is to optimize the use of vitamin C inside your cells. When you have stress event, the adrenal glands releases cortisol. We have data to show that cortisol works to push vitamin C into the cell. Total garbage, voodoo, science. The doctor speaking, okay, and the doctor speaking here is totally obese. We need a bill that allows patients to get Medicare and Medicaid to pay for their treatments. They choose. So they are advocating for just whatever you want, vitamin drips, etc. Just medical system pay for it. All right? It's not going to work out. Now they go on to ozone therapy. Red flag. You know what ozone turns to hydrogen peroxide? You know what hydrogen peroxide does to blood? So they are actually advocating taking your blood out, mixing it with ozone to inject it back into your body. That's crazy. And then they show like the blood coming out, and the doctor says, well, you can tell by the color it's getting better. Really ridiculous. Purpose of immune system is to optimize the use of vitamin C inside your cells. Oops, I'm going backwards. Ozone helps with increasing energy. Ozone is smart. It can activate natural killer cells. Extracorporeal ozonation oxidation. The Cadillac of ozone therapy. Oh, the Cadillac. Wow, that's a buzzword. And then they show the blood coming out of this guy, and they say, yeah, you can see it. You can see it's better. You can see the color's different. We can see the heavy metals and the mold and the blood clots. Patients with Lyme disease are helped. So, is that what the Hadid family is getting? Poor Bella Hadid. I saw her going for, some kind of infusions and things. They're very sick with Lyme, what seems to be Lyme disease. Is this what they're getting? Okay. 8. We need to have freedom of speech. There's less freedom of speech in medicine than in politics. Okay, that's true. But freedom of speech is allowing the log jams to all break up so that this information about what's making people sick is getting out there correctly. There's been a massive log jam regarding this information getting out into the public discourse. So they're right about that. So they show RFK and Dr. Oz, new guidelines for diet and nutrition. Then they have Dr. Kien Vu. Okay? I know him. I took my stuff to him. Dr. Kien Vu, he's a friend of mine that I knew from 30 years ago. She introduced me. Soon after I sent him all my stuff, he got a job on Fox as a medical commentator. Okay, but he says, there is an awakening. The systems we trust are failing us. So he got sick and found himself overweight and diabetic with high blood pressure and several medications. And he started to ask why. Unfortunately, he's not telling the whole story here. So, unfortunately, he's not telling the full story here. So he got really sick and depressed and with high blood pressure because he grew up in genocide, I believe. He was a refugee from Vietnam. Either he was or his parents were. And then he got over here. That's the cause of the high blood pressure. And then he developed depression. And he went through a program. There was a seminar which is about healing, which I've done a bunch of times. And that's the real secret of how he got healthy. He dealt with his emotions. He totally left this out of this video. And he's, advocating for all these garbage therapies. It's really ridiculous. So I sent Dr. Kien Vu this letter. And after months, he was totally ignoring me. Finally, I drove down to his house. He walked out with his wife. I said, are you getting my messages? They were just offended that I stopped by to say hi. So, and they have Dr. Mark Hyman with Dr. Kien Vu. They're all buddies here. 9. So then they have Dr. Mark Hyman saying, I was 36 years old. I had autoimmune diseases, cognitive issues, depression, ADD. ADD has the exact same symptoms as PTSD. Then he says, through functional medicine, I was able to heal myself, but he didn't really say what happened and what he did. Another massive omission. Dr. Jack Wolfson, mainstream medicine is not the answer. The drugs are an attempt to cover up the problem, the Band-Aid approach. Exactly. You find out what's going on, you get on the right track, and you get healthy. You reduce your stress. You don't need all these garbage treatments. What we need to do is go after the root cause. We never talk about root causes. Stress. If you get to the root cause, then you don't need therapies. You remove the cause. Dr. Dean Ornish has been saying that for 30 years. His analogy is if your sink is overflowing, what did he say? It's ridiculous to just mop up the floor. That's what it was. Dr. Ron Honeyhake, many patients get stuck in a chronic illness loop. They don't get to the fundamental cause of their illness, which could be stress, lack of sleep, or you can't get along with your spouse. So that is true. And this is the part that they're ignoring. Through working with my dad and, digesting all the research from all the other doctors, it's easy to see how toxic stress is causing all the illnesses. It causes your blood pressure to go up, and that's a symptom. The high blood pressure is a symptom of toxic stress overload. Next, at 32 minutes, Dr. Jason West, the West Clinic. The doctor prescribed prednisone. The answer is in the blood. So this Dr. Jason West has a patient come in, kind of looks like 35-year-old man. I can't see anything wrong with him. He seems a little sluggish and depressed. It seems like depression. They never really said what illness he had, but his doctors prescribed prednisone, which is a steroid, which steroids are released during stress. So it's like giving a chemical stress injection. The answer is in the blood. So he draws the blood of his patient, he puts it under a microscope on the screen, and then he shows this is healthy blood cells, and then this is your blood cells, and they're all clumped together, and then the healthy ones are all separated. And so he says sticky blood and infection markers is super critical. And so we need to get your blood more like this. Role of chronic bacterial and viral infections in neurodegenerative diseases, psychiatric diseases. So he takes out his blood, he injects the ozone, he does the vitamin C drips, and then this guy had some kind of radical cure, but we don't even know what the illness is. So another massive omission. He says you can reboot your nervous system with vitamin B, and then he starts doing Botox syringe injections into the guy's neck. Creepy as hell. Botox. Then he says peptide therapy. And then the patient does a nasal adjustment inside his sinus cavity. They stick this blow up thing inside of his nasal cavity and they blow it up like that. God only knows how that's going to help depression. I have no idea. It's just ridiculous. Then he goes, then Dr. Laura, 26 minutes. Patient with osteoporosis was told that she had to take medication, but she wouldn't do it. She came back a few months later. She was greatly improved, and the patient said, I worked on my gut health. Oh, so that's the cure for osteoporosis, gut health. Whatever the hell that means. Then, 10 minutes. John Hewitt, Family Genetics. So they have this patient, his name is John Hewitt, and he says, all my families are dying from heart disease. He's overweight. And then he says, because of their genetics, and they were in their 50s and 60s, and I discovered the miracle of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide. Supposedly it relaxes the cell walls and reduces your blood pressure, which is another pill, another medication. Then they have Dr. Kien Vu again. He says, with this awakening, we have more choices. He's pictured with Robert Kennedy and his wife. When we have new choices, we can take new actions and reclaim our health. Again, unfortunately, Dr. Kien Vu didn't inform people in this documentary about what was really making him sick and how he really turned it around. All right. So, that's it. Free broadcast, and then they censor it. It's called Maha Uncensored, except it costs you money. So it's only for the rich who have credit cards. So, what's the real cure? And where do we go from here? Del Bigtree, he's right down the street here in Austin, and I've connected with a few friends of his a couple days ago. So we're going to be circling the wagons, getting our message through, and we're going to ask him to come over to our side and help us communicate with Robert Kennedy that this is not okay. When I gave Del Bigtree my dad's book, and I went to his ranch, and I gave him this 2-page letter about millions of seniors getting poisoned, right there with his wife, he said, I don't want to have anything to do with this. He slammed the door. So I said, you know, you've been jumping up and down about those vaccines and scaring the hell out of people for several years now. And you're scaring people. So my mom took the vaccines. My brother's really worried about them. And they've been arguing over and over again, you know, afraid of what it's going to do to her, and arguing about whether or not you should get the vaccine. So it's people, I told him and his wife, there's something wrong if you're willing to scare the hell out of people and create so much division, but when somebody comes along with the real answer, you don't want to have anything to do with it. When somebody comes along with what's really making people sick, millions of seniors getting 16 drugs and bad combinations, you're slamming the door. There's something wrong with that. So, but we're going to be getting through to these people. So, thank you very much. We can do it. Okay, all it's going to take is breaking the logjam. People who recognize what the real answers are. I put them in several of my videos, my recent videos. Once again, the answer is spend $6 trillion a year on sickness care. If we spend $1 trillion on healthy living solutions, it'll create Pritikin programs in every single community that can be staffed by veterans. Create jobs in every single community. It's a formula that can work. It's a formula that they all testified to the Senate, again, saying exactly the same thing in 2008. So, thank you.